Hello, Justin. Testing my voice here. How do I sound? Okay, thanks.
Hey, Justin, Fredik, can you guys hear me?
Yes. Where am I? Yeah.
Okay.
Lazy Penguin, Skyler, AK3. Nice to see you here. Diana, new ambassador. Spirit, very active on our trivia. Good to see you here. Also Sparks, providing very correct answers to our trivia series. Thank you so much. Ars Octopus, how you doing? Also for the new cohort of ambassadors. Glad to see you here. Xorinox, with his usual very thoughtful questions. Looking forward to those, Xorinox. Ivan, happy to see you here. How's the space transmissions going? Let's pump it up. Just a couple of minutes before we get started. Perhaps give it over a minute or so. Make sure everybody joins. C. James Stanley, thank you for your uh, very speedy responses to the series. Valkis, how you doing? Hey Ryan, wanna test your sound before we get started?
Yeah, hey Rajiv.
Okay, sounds good. Hello Jim.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Hello. Yeah, loud and clear.
Great.
While we are at time, we might give it a minute, an extra minute for folks to jump in before we get started, if everyone agrees. Hello Nazar.
Hey folks, how are you doing?
Okay, sound great. Yeah, I need to buy your microphone. Okay, so yeah, let's as we wait for more folks to join. Um, Greetings, Subspace community, and cheers for setting aside the moment to join us and celebrate this epic milestone. Yes, weeks leading up to today's launch have been quite intense, and a massive shout out to our community stars and ambassadors for the engagement in all the initiatives we promoted. We'll cover these initiatives in a bit. A special high five to our community tech wizard and support ambassadors. I mean, the lightning speed response, thoughtful considerations prove immensely helpful, remarkable work. On this, if I may, I would like to bring a magnifying glass to something perhaps less visible than Discord exchanges, but equally impactful for the future. We have seen notable effort by our support ambassadors on strategic, long-term approach to grow the knowledge base in our forum, so that in the hopefully not so distant future, the forum can become the primary source for frequently asked questions and latest updates. So doing so, in other words, support ambassadors, quite frankly, set the stage for more scalable and efficient support as we edge closer to mainnet and prepare for many new enthusiastic farmers to join. Big shout out to them. We will keep amplifying this momentum. It's no secret. We intend to increase the number of support leads soon, and I can't wait to announce it on Friday. Now, to the central question: why have we gathered here? Or, if I may rephrase it, what significance does this launch hold for us? Of course, the incentivized name of the event itself drops the hint about the rewards, but I perceive this occasion also as a major milestone for our protocol and for the community. As discussed during the last call, we approached the last mile before mainnet. No other test phases ahead of us. And make no mistake, we intend to run it as vigorously as ever, but at the same time, and just as importantly, I would say, today also marks a new beginning in some ways. If you want, the opening act of a new, very interesting developments the team has been working on with passion. Our founder, I believe, will talk more about this. You may have noticed both founders here on stage, the Subspace visionaries and trailblazers, Jeremiah, Nazar. An honor to have you here today. Hope you can hear me.
Likewise, great to be here, Fredik. Thank you so much.
Great to see so many people today.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Also present, you all know him, our diligent community support manager, Justin Hill. Glad to have you with us, Justin.
Of course, happy to be here. Thank you all for all your dedicated support. I'm super excited to finally have our incentivized testnet launching in this stage. It'll be a great event.
For sure it will. Eaching to share insights on the networking numbers. Big Jim, former ambassador and current head of ecosystem. Welcome, Jim.
Hello everyone. Yeah, super excited to be here. Doesn't get much more exciting for me. So lead and the incentivized testnet start. So really pleased that everyone can join us today.
Well, sure. Jeremy Frank, head of engineer. He's on the audience We hope you can support us from there. He hopefully he will also can also provide shed some light on the path forwards. Ryan from the ecosystem team, he's been visible on many Discord channels, leading very exciting initiatives like the dog contest and the meme contest. Great to have you here, Ryan.
Hey, everyone.
Ryan, you're muted, but we super hyped to be here. And finally, guarding our cosmic vault, our head of finance, Todd Rudolph. Hello, Captain.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Great to be back. See so many familiar faces here. It's been a while since we've done office hours, so glad to be back, and thank you, everyone, for joining.
Great. No further delay. Mic is yours, Jeremiah.
Great. Thank you very much for the introduction and getting us started, Pradeep. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. I'm very, very excited to be here today. It's always a pleasure to get to speak with our amazing community. I also wanted to thank Justin, Pradeep, Jim, everyone on the ecosystem team and the broader team who helped put this event together today. So today I'm going to be covering three main topics. First, I'm going to give a quick overview of the lead up to Gemini 3, what to expect during the incentivized phase and what will happen at mainnet beta and beyond. Second, I'm going to summarize many of the key initiatives that our team has been working on in the background, some of which you'll be hearing about in the coming weeks and months. And third, I'm going to give a brief introduction with respect to some of the efforts to integrate Subspace with the emerging industry of generative AI, which will be the focus of several of the early use cases and the user experience for the network at mainnet launch. All right, so let's start with Gemini 3. So of course, this is the reason we're here today. And it is very exciting and such a huge milestone that our team has unlocked through many, many, many months of hard work and blood, sweat, and tears to get us to this point, but we are here. But before we talk about Gemini 3, it's worth reflecting on the many years of hard work that it has taken us to get here to where we are today, and that this would not have been possible without the support of everyone in our community. Subspace is nothing without its community, and we are so very grateful for everything that you all are doing and for your attendance and participation today. The Gemini 3 will be the third and final incentivized testnet before we launch our mainnet. We've had two other incentivized test networks over the last 2 years, which have proved invaluable for testing the protocol and building out our amazing community. It's worth noting that both of these networks have seen some of the highest levels of community participation of any L1 in the industry. We've had more farmers on our testnet than many L1s have on their mainnet today. Thank you so much, all of y'all, for making that happen. And this is why we place such an emphasis on decentralization and making the network as permissionless and as accessible as possible. All right, so talking about Gemini 3, there are many exciting things that are going to happen during this phase. Others are going to talk about that this morning in much more detail, but there are a few things I would like to emphasize about what's going to be different from Gemini 3 with previous iterations. So first, Gemini 3 is going to be long-running. Expect it to last for a long time, anywhere from 3 to 5 months or even longer. And this is just based on how long it's going to take us to actually get our feature-complete mainnet beta protocol. Second, expect there to be many, many hard resets of the network as new features and upgrades are deployed continuously throughout this phase. Nizar and Jeremy are going to talk much more about the technical details of that shortly. Third, there's going to be two key incentive systems in Gemini 3. The first is going to be around farming. This is going to follow the same incentive model that we will have at mainnet launch. So that's different from how it was in Gemini 2. Tokens will be issued at a continuous rate. Allocation will depend on how long Gemini 3 runs. It will be proportional to how many weeks it runs effectively. We're adding a new feature in Gemini 3, which is domains or execution through smart contracts with our EVM-compatible domain. And domain operators will be incentivized through a separate allocation as part of Stake Wars, which Jim will talk more about soon. Finally, Gemini 3 is going to transition directly into mainnet beta, as Pradeep said earlier. So the key features to look out for in mainnet beta will be domains, secure consensus, including our securely parameterized dilithium along with our proof of time, and vertical scaling, which means that we will be able to support as many transactions as the bandwidth of farming or running a farmer can support. Following mainnet beta launch, our focus will shift to mainnet Omega. The key features for mainnet Omega will be open domains or permissionless domains that anyone will be able to deploy, new domains at least, and horizontal scaling through dynamic data sharding. Horizontal scaling will allow us to achieve our ultimate vision for effectively infinite scalability of the Subspace network. All right, so switching gears, let's talk a little bit about what's been happening in the background at Subspace Labs. There's many other things we've been working on, which you're about to hear more about. I'm just going to touch on these briefly. So we're currently completing a new audit of the Subspace protocol with SR Labs, the same security consulting agency that audits the Polkadot network. We will continue to work with them continuously for the life of the protocol after this audit. This is just the next major audit that we're doing. We've also started working with researchers at Pantera and Block Science to formalize and finalize our tokenomics in preparation for mainnet launch. This is almost equivalent to a protocol audit in terms of its scope and complexity, but it will be applied to our incentive design. You can also expect to see a formal report published early next year, detailing the outcomes of this work. We've also begun working with TokenSoft on 2 different token sales. First, a smaller community token offering, which will be gated to participants of the 3 incentivized test networks, including those who participate in Gemini 3. This will be followed by a much larger public token sale. We expect both of these to occur early next year. On the marketing front, we've been working closely with the same agency that created the modular blockchain narrative that many of you are familiar with, Celestia. They're working with us to help articulate our thesis around Subspace's role at the intersection of AI and Web3, which I'll be talking more about shortly. We're also working on a major upgrade to the Subspace website, which will be live before the end of this year. On the AI front, we've also started collaborating with the technical team at Hugging Face, which is the industry leader in open source AI, often referred to as the GitHub of AI. The goal of this collaboration is to leverage generative AI to improve our internal workflows at Subspace Labs, while also developing a strong technical foundation as we focus on AI native use cases for the Subspace network. Many of you know we've also established the Subspace Foundation, which is a Swiss-based nonprofit. The foundation will manage all of the IP around the Subspace network and conduct all of our subsequent token sales. We will be slowly transitioning key personnel responsible for the Subspace network blockchain to the Subspace Foundation over the next year. We'll also be slowly transitioning to community governance facilitated by the Subspace Foundation. We have developed a draft governance framework, which is actually currently under legal review, and we hope to be sharing with the community soon. Lastly, we're establishing several new entities. Once the network moves to the Subspace Foundation, Subspace Labs will be transitioning into a new organization called the Continuum Collective. The mission of the Continuum, or our organization, will shift from building the Subspace network to incubating open source projects that have the potential to impact billions of people worldwide. The Subspace network being the first example of such a project that we have incubated in-house and then spun out into a separate entity, the Subspace Foundation. We're also working on spinning out 2 other projects. Mosaic Labs will be focused on artificial intelligence, while the Autonomous Association will be focused on the open metaverse. Eventually, the Continuum will provide grants and assistance to third-party teams building on any of these projects. Okay, now to the main event, Subspace and AI. All right, so I'd like to start by summarizing our thesis regarding the intersection of AI and Web3, why we believe the Subspace network will play a critical role in the approaching age of artificial intelligence. As we all know, generative AI has made a huge impact on the world in the last 9 months. It is rapidly rewriting the rules of every sector in the technology industry. Web3 is no exception. However, it's still unclear exactly how AI will impact Web3. Some believe that Web3 will be used to distinguish humans and artificial intelligence online, something like a proof of personhood. Others see blockchains in the future being dominated by autonomous agents acting completely on their own. Many believe that Web3 holds the key to some form of decentralized superintelligence, or AGI, artificial general intelligence. We believe that all of these ideas have merit, and there's elements of truth to each of them. We're thinking about this much more fundamentally. We see Web3 as an open infrastructure layer, or the ideal open infrastructure layer for an autonomous AI future. To be more specific, we see a future world where the identity between humans and AI becomes blurred. Everyone will eventually have their own personal AI agent. We see Web3 as the ideal infrastructure for personal AI agents, allowing them to maintain things like identity, execute payments, and collaborate with each other on behalf of users, rather than doing this in a fully autonomous fashion. I also think that Web3 holds the key to a more open alternative to superintelligent AGI. We see it differently. Don't expect AI to run on-chain through a smart contract. Instead, we see personal AI agents collaborating off-chain, still using something like a DAO on-chain, ultimately collaborate with each other. If we were to put this all together, we envision Subspace as the world's first global identity and financial network. It's not just for humans, but also for every AI, whether that be an autonomous AI or a personal AI. We believe that only Subspace can support the scale needed to run this with 10 billion users around the world, with 10 billion humans, along with all of their AI agents. Okay, let me talk briefly about how this would actually work and what it means for Subspace more specifically. So if we start with the user experience, we see a very different path towards mass adoption of Web3 than many other protocols or projects. We see a future where everyone can use an AI-powered chat interface to interact with a blockchain through their own personal AI agent. This means that agents would do things like manage keys, manage identity, execute payments, or even run a node or a farmer on behalf of the user under the hood, without requiring any technical knowledge at all. We're currently reimagining the entire user experience of the Subspace network along these lines. The application layer, the smart contract layer, we see three foundational use cases for the network mainnet launch, which we're currently building. First, we need an autonomous identity framework, what we're calling an auto ID, or a proof of autonomy. This is an extension of the World Wide Web Consortium standard for decentralized identifiers, or DIDs, similar to how the Ethereum name service works. The blockchain serves as a global registry for self-sovereign or user-created identities. Second, we need an open and user-friendly payment network that can work at global scale. We're currently calling this Sapiel Pay, or SAPay, after the Sapiel developer framework that we're building around agentic AI. The idea is that you just say pay using AI-based text-to-speech to execute payments. SAPay is going to start by allowing user-friendly payments on the Subspace network before being extended to cross-chain transactions across different Web3 projects and protocols, and eventually integrating with legacy Web2 payment networks as well, allowing for one unified global AI-powered Web3-based payment network. Finally, we're going to need a collaboration platform will allow AI agents to interact through a DAO on behalf of their users. This will facilitate a new form of bottom-up collective intelligence to rival top-down centralized AGI. You can think of this as an intelligent social network, like the hive mind of Reddit on AI steroids. Moving to the developer experience, nothing has really changed here. It's still Solidity smart contracts on EVM domain. The difference is that we will not be positioning Subspace as an alternative layer 1 for developers in the early days of mainnet launch. We will not be trying to compete with other layer 1 protocols in the L1 wars. Instead, we will focus on attracting users on the road to mass adoption for both Web3 and personal AI. If we're successful on that front, developers will come to us because we have the users. This is our vision. I want to close here by talking about what we're actively doing today to achieve these goals. First, we've developed a new conceptual framework for personal artificial intelligence, which treats human and AI as symbiotic companions, calling this Humaic Intelligence, or HI. Second, we're building a new developer framework for agentic AI called SAPIEL, which I alluded to earlier. SAPIEL is an acronym. It stands for Semi-Autonomous Personal Intelligent Agents from Large Language Models. SAPIEL will allow developers to build personal AI agents 100x faster than existing tools. We already have demos which demonstrate this. These agents will be compatible with Web3 out of the box, the Subspace Network first. We've already built a prototype of SAPIEL, and we're working on a public release in the coming months. We expect SAPIEL to actually be the main interface through which traditional web developers interact with the core AI applications that we're building on Subspace initially, not through Solidity, not through smart contracts. Finally, we're spinning out a new division of Subspace Labs called Humaic Labs, which will be focused on promoting and developing Humaic intelligence, as well as building and maintaining the SAPIEL framework. Okay, so that was a lot of information, but a lot of what I just described is actually covered in a blog post which I'm going to be releasing in the next few days. You guys are just getting a sneak peek. So that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for listening. I'm really looking forward to y'all's feedback and questions at the end. And now I'm going to turn it over to my co-founder, Nazar.
Thanks, Jeremiah. I will dive a little bit into more technical side and first explain what we have in terms of upgrades over previous networks in Gemini 3F and what you can expect next. So the first big thing that we have is basic dilithium consensus. We have several articles on Medium where you can read about nitty-gritty details. In short, we have new version of the proof of archival storage consensus. It is powered by Magic Moon Math, as we call it internally. It is basically a combination of some interesting mathematical properties between KZG and ratio coding. And we also use Chia proof of space as a small primitive, a very different way from Chia internally in that consensus that gives us a much better version of proof of archival storage consensus comparing to the Gemini 1 and 2. And that is basically in many dimensions, but primarily security and usability. One other thing we have in Gemini 3F, which we didn't have in Gemini 3 ED and previous versions, is sector expiration. Some of you have seen that as the history of the blockchain gets bigger, new pieces are created, and then those pieces are supposed to be stored by someone. So every time the history doubles, half of your plot will basically expire and will be replaced with new sectors, and those sectors will, with some probability, contain new pieces such that we store all of the history, both old and new, uniformly. By the way, thanks for great questions on the forum. There were many questions about expiration and other things. Keep them coming. We'll be happy to explain what is going on, how it works, and anything you might be interested in. One other big upgrade in Gemini 3F is distributed storage network. We've been talking about this for a very long time. It was kind of under the cover tool that was partially used in the previous networks. Right now it's front and center. Basically, this means that both farmers and nodes are retrieving data from our storage network. So all of the pieces that you as farmers are storing are actually useful data. And when you start a new node, that new node will actually reach out to other farmers to retrieve the history, and that is how it is syncing from Genesis. It is not necessarily retrieving data from other nodes anymore. As a side effect of that, you may remember in previous networks there was a big question, how much space I need to reserve for the node. Basically, the idea is that the space for the node will be constant, and the old history of the node will be pruned. Why? Because we have distributed storage network. We no longer need to store all of the history on absolutely all of the nodes in the network. That solves the farmer's dilemma, which we described in the original white paper. The other thing, which is a little bit under the radar right now, is EVM domain. We do have EVM domain on Gemini 3F right now. It is working. So you can expect to see a faucet for application development in the near future. We are working on that. And the other thing is we have improvements for Pulsar and the reference implementation, the advanced CLI. One big thing I guess everyone would be happy to see is the support for resizing of your plots. It was a pain before. You want to shrink or you want to extend it, you had to basically start over. It's no longer the case. That is what we have today. But as mentioned, this will be the longest, the largest Gemini version yet, and there will be some upgrades, including breaking ones. Some of the things you can expect in the future. There will be operators rollout. The domain that we are running right now is kind of trusted, so only Subspace Labs can run it as of today. However, over time, we will be transitioning that to completely permissionless, where anyone can join as an operator. There will be also farmer nominations that allows you as a farmer to stake your coin on top, or like nominate an operator with your coins to basically boost their staking power and earn some additional rewards that way. And there will also be an implementation of fraud proofs and slashing for misbehavior of operators. That is one of few things why that prevents us basically to make it permissionless. We still need some work there and some testing. Consensus upgrades. The biggest thing missing right now on Gemini 3F that is in production is proof of time. There are several reasons why we want it. The first one is protection against long-range attacks. The basic idea there is in order to attack the network as it is today, you don't necessarily need to have more than 51% of space as of right now on the network, which is huge. You only need more than half of the space of the average space on the network throughout time. So if network runs for a very long time and then at the very end someone has a very large plot essentially, they will be able to convince newly joined nodes that that is actually the longest chain. They will be able to build the longest chain. And we obviously want to prevent that. The actively live nodes on the network will not be convinced, but newly joined network nodes can be misled that way. What proof of time does, it basically restricts everyone to run at the same pace in essentially real time. So in order to build a longer chain, you need to spend at least as much time plus have more space than the rest of the network that is honest. That is a big upgrade, and that is a big security upgrade. That's why we want to have it. The other thing that proof of time gives us is a prediction window. The implementation is done in such a way that we will essentially know the proof of time a few seconds ahead. And what that means is farmer can actually start a little bit sooner the audit and potentially proving if they have a solution, which means you have a little bit more slack time to actually go from I have a challenge to I have a block. Because right now the restriction is you basically have 750 milliseconds to do all of it. With proof of time upgrade, you will have several seconds to complete that. Essentially, we'll have several seconds to produce a proof, and then at the very end, you will have 750 milliseconds to produce, or like a 1 second to actually produce the block itself. But you will already have a solution by that time. It should actually fix some of the challenges that some of the farmers see today on the Gemini 3F, where if you have a huge plot, sometimes you may not be able to even like audit it in time. We will fix that with upgrades, but this thing will also help in that particular case. However, we will also make it a little bit harder to plot. The Chia proof of space primitive we are using under the covers has a parameter k, which is currently set to 17, and we will increase it to 20, which makes it much harder to actually produce, which is involved in plotting and producing proofs that you use for blocks and votes. However, that shouldn't be a big deal. The primary reason for that is we will have a bigger prediction window. We will have more time to actually produce a proof. Right now, it's not really feasible. That's why we didn't increase it yet. But that will be coming as part of the proof of time upgrade. The other thing which is ready and waiting to be deployed, but it is a breaking networking change. That's why we cannot deploy it on Gemini 3F, but it will be deployed later. Compact blocks. Compact blocks is basically the idea where instead of broadcasting the whole block or like have everyone download the whole block, everyone will just get a list of hashes of transactions in the block, and that will be sufficient for them in most cases to reconstruct the whole block without downloading it. The idea is that most of the transactions would have been seen by the rest of the network by the time they see announcement of the block. So they essentially can reconstruct the contents of the block locally. That helps us to maximize the bandwidth, which Jeremiah already mentioned. We want to basically transaction throughput to be restricted by what farmers can download, not what they can download in a very short period of time, like a few seconds. There will be more DSN upgrades. In particular, we want to implement Quick Protocol. It's UDP-based protocol instead of TCP-based one that we are using right now, which should help with getting through firewalls. It should improve latency of connections. It should be a better protocol overall, but it will take a little bit of time for us to be certain and make it the default. It's actually technically already supported on Gemini 3F. It's just not the default protocol. There were some improvements for Pulsar and Advanced CLI already. There will be more improvements. We are still inheriting some substratisms. Excuse me. For instance, when you are running Node as a farmer, you have to specify a parameter -- validator, which makes no sense. In Subspace, we don't have validators. We have farmers and operators. Those kinds of things will be improved. And we definitely welcome contributions from the community, both in documentation and code contributions. We actually have several issues in GitHub that are marked as good first issue. So if you want to dive in, that's the good place to start. And at the end, I want to remind everyone, or maybe it will be news for someone, what is the goal of the network Gemini 3? The goal is actually kind of to break the network. That's why we have testnets. The idea is that Jeremiah, from more like use cases point of view, will try to break the network, and you will help us to break the network, and the protocol engineering team will try to make network not break. The more ways we can find to break the network before mainnet, the better. Hopefully we will find none. Realistically, it's probably not the case. But the goal of testnet is to stress test the implementation that we have. And we are very grateful for every one of you running nodes and helping with other things to ensure that we have a production-ready implementation by the time we are ready to launch the mainnet. I think that's everything I have so far. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Nazar and Jeremiah, for your comprehensive and detailed explanations and insights. Just a note for the community, we hold a segment in the agenda for a technical walkthrough, a Q&A. So yeah, we'll look forward to hear your questions on all the different topics that have been covered. And yeah, most certainly, on our pathway towards mainnet, it becomes imperative to examine our current state of the network. Jim, wonder if you fancy shed some light on this?
Yeah, sure. So I can talk about the state of the network. I just wanted to, acknowledge the magnitude of the news that Jeremiah has dropped about our future subspace. I'd be interested to hear everyone's thoughts once you've had a chance to digest those updates. Okay, so I'm Jim. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm head of ecosystem. I joined the project originally as a farmer. I came up through the ambassador program, and I joined the team earlier this year. And that's kind of how I ended up on this call right now. Gemini 3F, as we've said, is going to be our last, Gemini 3 will be our last network before mainnet. We will go through some iterations, but today, obviously, we're planning to activate rewards. So where are we? What does it look like? Okay, so Gemini 3F was launched on the 17th of August to some fanfare from the team during an exciting launch party here on Discord. We are very pleased to report that the node and farmer software has proven stable so far. Of course it has. Though I'm going to reiterate what both Jeremiah and Nazar have said, that we would like to remind our audience that this is a test network whose purpose is to find problems. And with that in mind, I'd like to set everyone's expectations that there will be issues which may well require us to reset the network. That's we are fully expecting that to be required. It is you, our community, that helps us find and document the bugs and defects in our protocol so we can tackle them, which is why we appreciate your belief in us and dedication to the project. The pain of finding problems now is what will make the project stronger at mainnet launch, which I think you'll agree is to everyone in the community's advantage. So let's do a quick update on the networking numbers. It's been running for 20 days now. We've released 8 software updates in that time, with the latest build being produced yesterday on the 5th. So if you haven't upgraded yet, you still have time. We are on block 309,464 has just ticked over. We have 9,009 nodes on telemetry, and we have 786 terabytes of space pledged, which is amazing, absolutely astounding. I'm going to talk about where we were on Friday in a minute. So all these numbers, they add up to the best outcome we could have ever hoped for. We've not found any issues which have required us to reset the network before we activate rewards. So we can proceed with our plan to activate the incentivized testnet today. Yay. When exactly that is going to happen was the subject of our recent countdown timer contest, which I'd like to talk about next. So the stats, this aggressive growth that I just mentioned, have had an interesting side effect. We're seeing an unprecedented ramp up in the storage being pledged to the network. And to give you an idea of scale, it was only last Friday we had just 1,500 nodes and around 250 terabytes of space pledged. So you can see the sort of explosive growth we've been dealing with. Unfortunately, while the network is bootstrapping and we are seeing this big change in space pledged, it can make the time to produce a block fluctuate slightly, which has made predicting the block that will be produced at a certain time very difficult for us. And with that in mind, we have pivoted with the countdown contest from having a pre-selected block to activate rewards to running the transaction to start them flowing manually. This was a disappointment to us, but also something of a relief to those of us in ecosystem who had constructed a clever but complicated agenda around a particular block being produced. It was also a real shame, as it meant our countdown contest would not pan out the way we had envisaged. We were hoping to announce a particular block and have our countdown contest entries count down to that block live on this call. Unfortunately, we've not been able to do that. So apologies to the contestants for the mid-initiative change-up. But putting these technical stumbling blocks aside, it's time for us to reveal our winner. So we've seen a wonderful crop of projects submitted for the Countdown Timer initiative, and I'd like to take the time to acknowledge and thank the participants for their efforts producing excellent products in a very tight time frame. You can check them all out. So there is an announcement in Discord, but I don't want you to run over there and leave the call. So you can check out all the entries in this post on our forum. The team loved all the entries, and our favourites, all of our favourites integrated with our RPC to show live block details, which was no mean feat. We appreciate that. The team recognises the challenges involved there, and we were stoked to see your use of our infrastructure. So let's talk about our runners up first. So I'm going to drop some links in the chat and talk about them. So first up, we have an entry from Zulkis. Hopefully I'm saying that right. This was the first one submitted, which talked to the RPC to get a feed on the current block. And there's some clever calculations. There's some smart maths going on there as well, calculating the average block duration. Our next runner-up is from Make a Turk, who managed to pack a lot of information into his UI and provided an Easter egg which appealed to the gamers amongst us. So I feel like it was a bit of a Trojan horse there. I spent far too long playing the embedded game, but a great strategy, Make a Turk. And then finally, Euracus 97 produced this very slick and lovely clean interface, but unfortunately he was caught up in a switching from a target block to a target time. So again, we apologise for that. But when I first saw it, it was counting down to a block and it was working lovely. But there must, of course, be an outright winner of the $250 worth of USDC, and that winner, as voted by the Subspace community, is Alex IT with this entry. So Alex adopted a multi-dial approach, which made me feel a bit like I was in a fighter plane cockpit. In addition to the USDC prize, Alex also claims the title of first submission and the most awkward Discord username to try and tag. So hopefully you're proud of that as well, Alex. We will be in touch with you shortly about how to claim your prize. Well done. Congratulations. There were some lovely comments provided by our contestants. I've popped them on the forum post about what a great initiative this was. And some even sounded us out about further involvement with the project. Remember that we are hiring at Subspace for a website called Lever. You can find a link pinned in the hash finder team channel here on Discord. And if any of our community developers feel like they'd like to take on a bigger development project for us with incentives to match, please do shoot me a DM and we can open a dialogue about what we could achieve together. And now we encourage everyone to keep their favourite countdown entry open as we hit the last few minutes before rewards are activated. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jim, and congratulations to the winner. Thank you, everyone who participated, got involved, spread the word. When it comes, I think in the last call, we also mentioned at a very high level on other network-related events like the Stake Wars and Space Race. Jeremy, what resources or strategies you believe are essential to make them happen?
Sure. So I was planning, or I am planning on giving kind of a high-level roadmap of our march to Stake Wars, Space Race, and then eventually mainnet beta. Nazar gave a very detailed kind of version of a lot of what I'm going to talk at a high level, but maybe I'll give some potential order and kind of positional context in addition to the great detail Nazar gave. So as has been already, I think, repeated 3 times. I'm going to repeat it because it's important. This is a test net, even in the incentivized phase. And we are trying to break it. We're trying to have you break it. We want to see how it can break. So that has implications, especially when trying to plan a roadmap. So roadmap is, in this case, is going to be a mixture of planning, hopefully very detailed and thoughtful planning, but it's also hope, guesses, and a lot of uncertainty. What we do know is that during the testnet, we will have planned network resets. This will mean starting over at a new Genesis block, replotting, kind of a whole new network, iterate the letter one more time or another time with each reset. We'll also probably have unplanned resets. As we move into, we're adding a lot of new features that have been tested and will have been tested in local environments, in what we call dev nets, where we a little more expanded networks. But the goal with the testnet is to have it tested in a more real simulation about what we see at mainnet. So there is definitely the potential for things to break, and we appreciate your patience. So we don't have a detailed timeline to share yet, but it is being worked on. We have, hopefully, we'll be able to give more information here over the next few weeks to months on kind of timing and what that will look like. But a high-level trajectory where we are now is that over the next few weeks, you'll be seeing upgrades to domains, including an EVM domain, as was mentioned by Nazar. We do actually have that live now. We're doing some testing. We'll be deploying some contracts to make it more useful, like a faucet. You'd be expecting to hear more about that in the coming weeks. We'll also likely be enabling cross-domain messaging, so be able to message between domains. Then we'll hopefully be having Stake Wars pretty soon. The goal of Stake Wars, as I think Jim has mentioned a few times in community calls, will be to onboard operators and nominators to the network, kind of a new class of participants. A little further out, we'll be seeing upgrades to consensus. Nazar gave great detail of what some of these would be: proof of time, compact blocks, more secure parameters for the lithium. There'll also be in the future more upgrades for domains. So we hope soon, we're working very hard towards having what we refer to as secure domains, where fraud proofs will be enabled. We'll be able to have domain instantiation. So first, that'll be permissioned of an existing like EVM runtime. Eventually, we hope to have permissionless domain instantiation, so you'll be able to run your own app chain essentially. Finally, as we kind of get through all of that testing, we'll be ready for, I know, Jim's highly anticipated space race, which will be our final race to mainnet. Again, it's all very high level. We're still working out the details, but as we become more solid, we will be sharing them with the community. And remember, you can always follow our progress, including kind of our path that we're looking forward on what we're working on GitHub. And while you're on GitHub, there are issues to be worked on. So we would love to see contributions. I've heard said also, quality contributions are a great interview. So we are hiring as well. So that would be a great way to kind of get our attention. That's it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Fantastic. Thank you for providing your engineering insights and supplementing some of Nazar's previous comments. As these technical developments unfold concurrently, in parallel, we also wish to maintain our engaging education and fun initiatives. One of them recently completed by Ryan, correct?
Of course. So Subspace is a very tech-heavy project, but we know how to have fun too. So showcasing
Ryan,
our community. Oh, sorry.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is Ryan having
No.
some technical difficulties, maybe? Okay.
Yes. No, he's
I
muted
can't.
now.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Okay, we can explore some of the new updates on the financial front as we wait for Ryan to maybe restart, and he can tell us all about the contest later, if you don't mind. So
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Pradeep. It's great to be back here again. I don't think I've been on the Subspace Discord since I was here with Justin when we were doing office hours. I see a lot of familiar names. It's great to see everyone. I just want to give a quick financial update and talk a little bit about tokenomics. I do see some questions in the chat, so we will go ahead and address some of those to the extent that we can. First of all, at a very high level, we would just like everyone to know that, despite the bear market, as Jeremiah had mentioned, we have been heads down in building. The team has grown dramatically. I think we've probably doubled in size since last time we had office hours, and we continue to grow. Subspace is in great financial shape. We are well capitalized, and we are absolutely committed to getting to the finish line here. So everyone should rest assured that we are not going anywhere. I hope everyone is excited about the network. We're very excited about the future. I will talk about a few aspects today of things that touch my area. I am in finance and compliance. So first off, as Jeremiah had touched on again, I'll just recap some of the things that he said. One of the things that we are really working hard on is our supply-demand model, economics, issuance, and that's something that we have engaged Block Science for, as he mentioned. We're going to be working with them, and this is to ensure the long-term sustainability and utility of the network. It's got a very unique model that I'll talk a little bit about as well. Happy to announce that we did submit our application for our token to FINMA, who is the Swiss regulatory body that is in charge of crypto. They are in Zug. The Subspace Foundation, as we mentioned, is established. It is its own entity. It does exist in Switzerland, and it will launch the token. We have received our token qualification from FINMA that qualifies us as a utility token, which is great news for us. That means we are not a payment token. We are not a security. We are a utility token as far as the Swiss regulatory agency is considering us, which is great news. So that will have implications for things like the token sales that Jeremiah had mentioned before. As we talk about tokenomics, just want everybody to keep in mind, as we mentioned, that this testnet will be ongoing. And for that reason, the rewards are going to be hard to gauge. They're going to increase as time goes by. So we will release our tokenomics, but we are going to need to release the details closer to mainnet launch. Due to the dynamic nature of the incentivized testnet rewards and other factors, the final allocations are going to be subject to change right up until the end of the testnet. And as everyone knows, that when you distribute tokenomics and you show the community what you have and you show all of your backers, you're held to that, and we respect that. And we feel that that information should be complete and accurate when it's disseminated, and we want to ensure that that is the case so we can avoid any confusion before we disseminate any incorrect details. So this will be ongoing. The best way to make sure that you are earning rewards is, you want to ensure that you are early. You want to ensure that you are pledging the amount of space that you're able to maintain throughout the testnet. The longer you participate, the more disk space you have, the more rewards you will earn. As far as the pool goes, what we can say with certainty is that this will be significantly larger than all of the prior testnets that we have run on an incentivized basis previous to this. So the rewards pool will be larger, and your best way to earn rewards is to continue participating. As you know, we've discussed before that we have essentially a voting implementation in our protocol where there is a block reward winner. There are also votes that are cast for what is likely the correct answer to the challenge that is proposed by the blockchain. Voting rewards are issued as well. We feel that it's better to earn consistently rather than wait for a large one-time block reward. So again, in essence, the longer you participate, the more blocks you can win, the more voting rewards you can win, and that will increase your chances to be a larger participant at the end. As far as mainnet goes, as I mentioned, we're working on our issuance model and locking down the allocations, and we do plan to calculate and distribute the rewards from testnet around the time of mainnet launch. I say around the time because ideally they will be issued at mainnet launch. However, we want to let people know that we are going to do our best to get these out in the Genesis block. This, of course, will be a best efforts. There have been some other blockchains in the past that have had some issues, people waiting for the rewards at mainnet and they're not getting them. And we want everyone to know that we are going to absolutely, on a best efforts basis, try to have everything included in the Genesis block. Ideally, the testnet is going to end. We will take all of the rewards. We will take the chain. We will compute the rewards. We will issue those rewards and allocate them in the Genesis blocks. As far as the ongoing issuance model is concerned, we are introducing a very novel dynamic issuance model that we feel is kind of first of its kind, and it is based on block space utilization. So essentially, to ensure the long-term sustainability of the network, we are going to create a subsidy parameter, and it's an inverse relation between an inflation rate for that subsidy and the block space utilization rate. So based on the utilization of the blockchain, that subsidy parameter will change so that we are ensuring the long-term sustainability of the network, regardless of what block space utilization is looking like. The rewards will be adjusted accordingly to incentivize farmers to come in, to incentivize builders, and this is all what we're working on with Block Science. We will have a very detailed paper that we will put out on this for everyone to read. We're very excited about this, so we'll continue to put out updates as we get closer. If anyone has any additional questions on any of this, on the foundation, on the tokenomics, rewards, and so forth, we'll be happy to answer them at the end. Thanks very much. Pradeep?
Thank you so much, Todd. Very informative. Tokenomics often raises complex questions from the community, and your insights certainly helps clarifying the processes involved. Much appreciated. Speaking of complexity, I feel very impressed by the recent trivia series. Interestingly, it showcases not only correct answers, of course, but also unique community perspective on complex topics like consensus and cryptography. Justin, what's your take on this?
why is proof of archival storage critical for decentralized networks? So this one, we had lots of good answers from as well. Our winning answer, our winning answer was once again William, or Mathematics 2146. He mentioned the importance and the, I guess, winning combination that is read-Solomon erasure coding and KZG commitments. Ironically, if he would have included that erasure coding in the prior question, he would have got the winner there. But he dives into great detail on how this is very helpful and ensures that decentralized networks don't have any loss of history. Our next question that we have is what or how does proof of archival storage differ from proof of work? Once again, we have Mathematics 2146 or William coming in with an answer detailing how proof of work works as far as using computational power to find the cryptographic puzzles versus proof of archival storage. You're doing those proofs on the history of the network that you are storing. Next question we have is, what is the primary advantage of using proof of archival storage over traditional storage proofs? So in this sense, we're asking, comparing to Filecoin or some other of the storage-based protocols, what exactly those differences are. The winner in this case was user Krez, or Crazies. He mentions that generally proof of capacity oftentimes falls into proof of useless space or proof of space with a separate contract, like in the case of Filecoin, mentioning how proof of archival storage is proofs of useful storage because it is the history of the network, which is obviously some data that we will want to continuously verify. This kind of adds a utility dynamic from the proofs in this case versus storage protocols like Chia, for example, are effectively wasting space for the sake of wasting space, which is how their cryptographics works. Next question we have is, which cryptographic primitives are essential for the functioning of archival storage? So this one's a little bit more detailed than some of the other questions, but definitely still got a lot of good answers. Krez mentioned proof of replication. JM Crypto mentioned Spartan. Spirit mentioned 4 kilobyte pieces. Time asymmetric permutations on Sloth. And our winner, William again, or also known as Mathematics 2146, was able to list through all of our primitives, being hash, digital signatures, KZG polynomial commitment schemes, read-Solomon erasure coding, and proof of archival storage as well. So really hit the big two ones we were looking for there, which was the KZG polynomial commitments and, as I mentioned earlier, erasure coding. Those two combined is really what makes up dilithium to be the magical moon math that it is, as Nazar mentioned earlier. Next question was a relatively quick one and easy one for all of our long-term crypto fans, which is, in what year was the Bitcoin white paper released? This one was promptly answered by user Vic Mez with the correct answer of 2008. So the question just asked for the year, but the correct answer overall is also October 31st, 2008. So bonus points for anyone who may have got that. Our next question is who is credited with coining the term smart contract? Our community member Krez, or Krezies, was able to get this one correct very promptly as well, with the answer of Nick Szabo. If you haven't done any research or reading on him, I definitely would suggest that you so. Very early pioneer in the crypto space, obviously, as he coined the term smart contract. Our next question we got was, which infamous exchange suffered a massive breach in 2014, leading to the loss of millions of Bitcoin? And that was correctly answered by Spirit, being Mt. Gox. Good lesson there for why not to trust exchanges for anyone who may have never heard of that story. Next one we have is, what caused Ethereum to fork into Ethereum and Ethereum Classic? This one was promptly answered by JM Crypto. with the correct answer that there was a DAO hack that suffered a fork between the network, and the majority of users voted to reset the network, essentially, return the funds to where they originally were, and move the hacked version of Ethereum as being called Ethereum Classic. Wonderful case study of of things that can go wrong in an early network, and definitely an interesting folklore story for the future. Our next question we have is, how does the Subspace Network handle data availability challenges? So this one is definitely a bit of a nuanced question. We got lots of good answers from our community, and it was promptly answered once again with the correct answer coming from William, or Mathematics 2146. He gave us a good answer, diving into the long detail. Honestly, I would suggest reading it, but he mentions the combining of KZGs and erasure coding to achieve the data availability and also, importantly, data redundancy, as proposed as in our initial white paper and also dilithium papers. Ultimately, his answer is honestly quite detailed, so if you'd like more details, I would definitely recommend checking it out. Another question we had, which was more of a straightforward one, is what role do farmers play in the subspace ecosystem? It was correctly answered by JM Crypto with the answer of being the consensus layer. He also noted that importantly, farmers do not maintain execution in state, as that is done on the operator side. This decoupling is also what provides Subspace some of its key scalability features. And our last question we had is, in what way does Subspace ensure data longevity and persistence? This one was correctly answered by William once again, by mentioning that the proof of archival storage itself is what ensures our data availability and longevity. Also mentioning that our tokenomics and overall incentive compatibility structure helps ensure that farmers are properly incentivized and aligned to keep this data online and running moving forward. So overall, we had lots of great answers from many different community members. I'm sure we can all tell who the winner was in this case, with the overall winner being Mathematics 2146, also known as William. If your name was mentioned, we'll also be reaching out to you for your prizes. And as the original contest mentioned, anyone who got a daily question right will be getting some merch, and the overall winner will be getting some merch as well as a $100 USDC prize. So thank you all for your commitment, and feel free to give us any feedback on the trivia event if you have any ideas moving forward. Look out for our emails and messages so we can connect with you and get you that merch that you deserve.
Amazing, Justin. Yeah, very, very impressive initiative, especially for its educational value, as you commented. Thank you so much, everyone who participated. It was a very active program. Look forward to continue if the community so agrees. Ryan, you good to go?
Hey, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, my friend.
Awesome.
The floor is all yours.
As I was saying, Subspace is a very tech-heavy project, but we also know how to have fun too. So we ran a meme contest, and I would like to showcase our top winners and the runner-ups. So number one, I'll be adding them to the chat. They're videos, so they might be processing a bit long. But thank you for everyone for participating, and anyone who entered will receive a pull-up, so watch out for that. I will be continually sending these out.
While Ryan does that, is anyone ready for rewards? I see people getting a little bit antsy in the chat.
Yeah, I think at this juncture, Jim, we should pause for a second, buckle up, and immerse in the moment we all been waiting for. 2 syllables. one word, rewards. James, I think for some reason this segment will make you even more popular.
Okay, so, well, it's not really my show, is it? Nazar, are you poised and ready to activate rewards on the network? Okay. So I'll just check and see if there's
Rewards are activated. First, block authors and votes should already get some coins.
Wonderful, thank you, Nazar. So everyone who's been asking, to the background of our meme contest winners scrolling up in our chat, yeah, rewards activated, everyone. So I just want to talk a little bit about how can we tell whether rewards are actually running. So I'm just going to drop a link in the chat amongst the memes. So this is the Polkadot Explorer pointing at the Gemini 3F RPC, and let's follow along together, shall we? Okay, so hopefully I'm showing the right screen there. Can anyone confirm if they can see my screen?
Yep.
Thank you, Fadik. Okay, so we can see the latest blocks being produced, and if we drill into one, we should be able to see that it was produced by the farmer owning this wallet. And if we take a quick look at their balance, well, there we go. Some Gemini 3F TSSC. Outstanding. So I would hope that, I can't hear it, but I hope there's a collective cheer from the community as we've now activated the rewards. Just while I'm on this screen, we've obviously got the block producer who's won some TSSC, but we've also got these farmer vote events, extrinsics going on the Block Explorer here. So what do they mean? Let me just open one, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about how rewards work with Subspace. So first of all, block rewards. Many of you will have seen on the Block Explorer that when a block is produced, beyond the expected block reward event, there are also multiple vote reward events being generated. The former is pretty self-explanatory. It's the reward earned by the node that farmed or built the particular block, while the latter is an extension to our consensus, aimed at increasing the reward frequency for farmers and broader network participation. On vote rewards, and without going into technical implementation details, voting rewards are granted to farmers who have found a solution to the block challenge within an accepted range, which is set to be broader than the block authoring difficulty ranges. So you've got very close to being the block author. Currently, the consensus is set to reward the block author or producer and 9 voting rewards on average. What it means is that the block author is always guaranteed to receive the block reward, while the number of votes accepted into each block could vary, with each accepted voter also earning a smaller TSSC reward. It is important to note that both block reward and voting reward are distributed proportionally to the amount of storage pledged by each farmer. You might wonder why we extended our consensus with voting rewards. In short, we want to prevent the scenario where the difficulty of generating a block is so high due to the total amount of space pledged that it might take the median farmer months or even years to earn the first reward. By introducing the voting reward, we can adjust the number of votes accepted without lowering the security of the core consensus model. This averts pooling, which in turn leads to centralization. If you'd like to read more about the details and the maths behind our rewards model, please check out this forum post, which I'm going to drop in the chat now. And with that, we're going to, I'm going to stop talking about rewards. I imagine everyone's left to go and check their farmer, but I'm hoping that some of you are going to stay with us because we've got something else exciting, haven't we, Pradeep?
Sure we do. All right. I'd say let's go fill our wallets. Now, in all seriousness, at this point, I guess a more procedural take might be necessary to help the community. Jim, Justin, Nazar, perhaps you can walk us through it or maybe anticipate likely questions.
Yeah. So just to start off, yeah, hey everybody. So just to start off with, obviously we'll walk through a little bit of a live demo and setup for Pulsar here in just a moment for you. But I wanted to start by giving a shout out to the developers who have just been working like crazy. It seems like ultimately this past year, but especially this past 2 weeks. It seems like they've gotten a release out about every other day. I think it's about 8 releases so far in just shy of 16 days or so. Which has definitely been a great increase to see, and I just want to give them the credit that is due for all of the bug fixes and hard work that they have been working towards. As far as getting your farmer going, obviously there is a couple different routes that you can work. So we do have 2 general pathways as far as farming goes. We have our advanced CLI and our Pulsar route. The advanced CLI, you'll have 2 terminals. You can also use Docker with the advanced CLI. It's a little bit better if you're looking for, custom configuration, multiple farms or plots, and complex setups along those lines. Versus Pulsar is more of our user-friendly wrapper for the advanced CLI, if you will. It is built with the Subspace SDK, so it's kind of a simplified version, if you will. I will mention that if anyone's looking, I know we've had been a lot of discussion about Subspace Desktop, our GUI application. If anyone is interested in potentially trying to get something like that built, Pulsar would be a great reference implementation for the Subspace SDK. Feel free to look into that, and we would love to have some discussions with any community members who may be interested in building out something along those lines on top of the Subspace SDK. But without further ado, let me get my screen share going, and we will get an initial setup run of the Pulsar. Give me just a moment while my computer cooperates.
So while Justin's setting up for the Pulsar run through, so in case it's not obvious, we just segued into a special edition Farmer Office Hours here. We have a hard stop for Jeremiah and some other guys on the call. So if anyone has any burning questions that don't revolve around running a node or the kind of things we usually cover in Farmer Office Hours, now's the time to pop them in the chat or come and join us on the stage. I'll just give you a moment to digest that and see if anyone wants to offer up any questions. Okay. I'll keep it on the chat, Justin, if you want to proceed with the Pulsar setup.
Definitely. You all should be able to see my screen pop up with the Subspace documentation. You can always, as always, you can visit that documentation, docs.subspace.network, and that will have our advanced CLI as well as our Pulsar route.
I think it's cutting out a bit.
No, I'm also getting some interference there, Justin. I'm not sure if the live stream has cooked our goose there. Okay, I am seeing an exclamation point. Justin, it might be worth killing the screen share for the moment. Maybe we can come back and do a Pulsar run through on the next official Farmer Office Hours. Okay. Hopefully you can hear me. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear Justin?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll continue then. Okay. So one of the things that we like to talk about on farmer office hours is the common issues that have surfaced amongst our farmers. We've got a really interesting conversation going on. So obviously, we are still working on the network. 3F is a very different network from 3E, for example. And as we approach feature completeness, we can expect further changes in the behavior of the software and the protocol itself. So one of the things that's been noticed, and this is anecdotal, I'm not entirely sure for a plot size, which has conveniently just been asked in the chat as well. So there's a great forum thread underway where we'd love to hear about your experience. As far as max plot size goes, we understand that I think it's at the operating system level. There's some restrictions, but we're talking about the kind of 63 terabyte range. But as far as the Subspace software goes, there is no limit. You should be able to run whatever size disk you want to. Now I've said that, there probably is some limit somewhere else that I'm not aware of until someone comes and tries to build a 512 terabyte plot. What I will say though is that the official advice is to build one plot per disk. So if you've got a bunch of NVMEs and you want to build and you want to plot on all of them, the advice is rather than try and raid those into one big contiguous space, actually put one plot on each drive. The software's smart enough. Because the chat can get a bit crazy with lots of different conversation threads being interleaved. In farmer support, we have a post where things are nice and organized. If we want to ask someone else's opinion, it's a lot easier for us to share a thread rather than try and have them trawl through like hundreds of different conversations going on. So yeah, and also the forum is where we love to see new issues. That's our source of truth. It's publicly searchable. So we will gently push you towards that just to set your expectations. But are there any questions that I need to address? Fredik, have you been keeping an eye on the chat?
No, it appears you covered those.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think I'll hand it back over to you then, Fredik.
Yeah. First, I mean, thank you all very much for not just for attending, for your patience, for granting it us. And I know there was a lot to take. There's a lot to be thrilled about, and it's been a long, joyful ride. To wrap it up, originally I wanted to add a drum roll sound effect, but didn't find it practical. It can cause glitches to the acoustics. This is because, as a token of appreciation for your loyalty and participation, we will reward each and every one of you here with a token. That's right. Everyone here will receive an NFT proof of attendance protocol pull-up. How can you claim the NFT? This is basically how this is going to work as of now, and shortly after the call, each of you will receive a new Gemini Guardian role as a thank you for securing our network for mainnet. Once the roles are granted, we will shortly create a role-gated channel where all Gemini Guardians, that is, all of you, will be able to access a form to claim the NFT. More details on the form about the mechanics and logistics of the distribution, but basically we will distribute to each and every one of you the mint links for all of you Guardians. How does that sound? Well, unfortunately, I can't hear your response. Cool, Bayer, thank you. Great. So yes, thank you so much. I hope you appreciate that, and thank you for bearing with us so far. Jim, any final words?
I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us today. I imagine that I won't be alone in rushing over to my farmers, seeing that they're up and running as I hope they are, and checking my wallet balance, of course. Exciting times ahead, everyone. Thanks again for joining us, and yeah, we'll speak soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your kindness and for your participation. Hope to see you soon, Guardians.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Gemini Guardians.